Good evening, everyone. Quick question before I get started. Who here has an unlived dream? Whether that's opening a yoga studio, writing a book, going on a safari, or as my daughter mentioned to me this morning, becoming an Olympic gymnastic professional. So I think most of us have an unlived dream, and I'm here to tell you tonight that that dream is actually a possibility. I'm going to tell you a story that I went through and an experience that I had, which hopefully inspires you. And I want to plant an idea in your mind today that even if you have a dream that seems nearly impossible, statistically impossible, you can live some sort of variation of that dream. I heard the music before the show started, and I heard some Inception music, almost like a dream within a dream. And I'm going to go through that with you tonight. As Doug mentioned, my name is Joe Prano. I'm an executive at Cisco. But before joining the corporate world, I got an opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm going to tell that story to you tonight to hopefully inspire you to go after your dream. So let's rewind the tape a little bit. This is a picture of me in the 1980s, late 1980s in Tarrytown, New York on Main Street. And what I was doing is I was watching, believe it or not, the Tour de Trump. Trump had a professional bike race back in the 80s. That was about 10 stages across the eastern seaboard. And I was there to watch it. And amongst that and the fact that I had a European family from Italy that would always have soccer, my dad would always have soccer on TV on Sundays, and the Tour de France, and my uncle was a bike racer, I got into the sport of cycling at a very young age. And I wanted to become a professional. But over the years, I recognized that that was kind of an impossibility. I played high school sports. I ended up cycling in college. I created a club team where we competed against other schools in the Northeast. But I realized that that was really statistically impossible. Actually, if you break it down from a numerical perspective, to actually make the Tour de France, even if you're a cyclist, is 1 in 5.6 million, 5.7 million. And you break that down to other odds, things like making it to Harvard, that's 1 in 83 probability. I knew I couldn't do both, so the probability was low on both sides. But I just want to show you how almost impossible it is to make the Tour de France. But that burning desire to be part of it, to live my dreams somehow, that was always in there. And what I did was I shared that with my friends and my family. And cycling is such an interesting sport. It really converges things like culture, landscape, people from all over the world. And by the way, you can go watch it for free on the side of the road. It's an incredible sport. So I always would share that passion with friends and family. So fast forward to a year after I graduated college, I get a call from my good friend Chris Sangemino, who lives in Long Island. And Chris says, Joe, I was just watching the Discovery Channel, and I saw a commercial. And they issued a challenge to the amateur cycling community, and they said, do you have what it takes to ride the toughest stage of the Tour de France? Will you live your dream? And I said, Chris, I think you're lying to me, but I'll go check it out. So I went on the internet, and he was serious, and it was a challenge out there to the amateur cycling community. And I said to myself, this is my way of living my dream. So what did I do? This is 2007. This is before really the iPhone, before Facebook, TikTok, all of these things. I took out the camcorder, and I made an awesome video around why I should be chosen to ride the toughest stage of the Tour de France. And I won. It was myself and another gentleman who you'll see later in the presentation, Adam Austin, and we were about to set off on the opportunity of a lifetime to live our dream. So what did that entail? Well, it entailed riding the toughest stage of the Tour de France, which was stage 16 of 2007 Tour de France, what they call in cycling the Queen stage. 4 large mountain passes, over 120 miles, a grueling test of endurance in the mountains in the Pyrenees of France. So that was the challenge. And in that challenge came living the life of an honorary member of the Discovery Channel cycling team for 3 months. So we found out straight away that we'd be traveling all over the world. They would be filming in our hometown. They would fly us to Trek out in Wisconsin, over to Spain, back to the US, out to a cycling coach's facility in Colorado, and then back to France to actually live our dream at the Tour de France. So I'm going to walk you briefly through that and show you my experience living my dream. So the first part of that was they came to Tarrytown, and they filmed what was the genesis of my dream, which was birthed right there in Terrytown. They interviewed my Uncle Mike, one of the person that was inspirational for me to get into cycling. And then they filmed us at my grandma's house right on the front porch where we watched some of the bike races go by when I was a little kid. And then they filmed us riding around my favorite roads in Terrytown and the surrounding areas. So it was awesome to be able to showcase that as part of the start of the show, where my passion came from, where my dream came from. But then they flew us out to Trek, and this is where things got real. Like the dream started to come to life. And they gave us a backstage tour of the Trek facility. And make no mistake about it, there is no public tour of Trek. All of their design facilities, their manufacturing, the secret sauce of what they make was part of our tour. We got that as part of the show. And at the end of that tour, they came to Adam and I and said, we are going to give you the Tour de France bike for the 2007 Discovery team before they even have it. So that's when it became real. They gave us the tool set to go ride the toughest stage of the tour right there at the Trek facility. It was an incredible experience, and it became real at that moment for Adam and I. They flew us back to our hometowns. We trained a little bit for a couple weeks, and then they flew us to Spain. And talk about a dose of reality. When you're living your dream, when you're going after your dream, things are not linear. It's not an easy path. And we got a dose of reality when we met with the Discovery Channel coach at the time. They call them in cycling director sportifs. That's the name of the coach in cycling. And this gentleman is Johan Brunel. And Johan Brunel was a cyclist. He rode in the pro peloton. And we went to his house in Madrid, and he sat Adam and I down. And he's like, guys, you're not training hard enough. You're not doing as many miles as you need to on a day-to-day basis. Your nutrition is way off. Everything you're doing is way off to go and live your dream, to compete in the toughest stage of the Tour de France. So it was a wake-up call for Adam and I. It just showcased the credence that we needed to pay to the professionals who do this day in and day out and really dedicate their lives to the craft of the sport. And then after that, we were able to actually ride and train with some of the team members, a gentleman by the name of Levi Leipheimer and George Hincapie. These guys were stage winners of the Tour de France. They won other races, and we got to train with them and really see what it took to ride the toughest stage. So incredible experience in Spain, and then we flew back to the States. Trained again at home a little bit, and then after that we went to Colorado where Chris Carmichael, who is a coach, training coach for a lot of the professional cyclists, has a facility out in Colorado. And he brought us into what's called the Little Shop of Horrors. So you can see a picture of me with a tube in my mouth and my nasal passageway closed, and this is a VO2 max test. And effectively what it is you have to bring yourself to the brink of exhaustion, ride as hard as you can. As you're doing that, they're pricking your finger to see how much oxygen you're transporting throughout your blood. That's why they call it the Little Shop of Horrors. But it was a baseline test for him to develop a coaching plan for us to go out and live our dream. So that was our experience out in Colorado. We got, again, the training and the coaching necessary to go out and live our dream. And that was an incredible experience in Colorado. From there, we flew back. We trained a couple more weeks. We got coaching from Chris Carmichael's coaching team, and then was off to actually live our dream in France. We flew into Toulouse near the Pyrenees, and we set off to do the toughest stage of the Tour de France in the Pyrenees. Now, we did it on the day that there was an off day for the tour. It was a rest day, and then the tour was going to do the actual stage the next day. So Adam and I set off to do this. Now, don't get me wrong, the pro peloton, they're moving very fast, 25 mile an hour average across 125 miles and up some large mountains. But when you're in a pack, when you're in a peloton, as they call it, you're doing about 30% less work than you are individually. So Adam and I had a really long day ahead of us, 8 to 9 hours of riding. But we set off on our dream to do the toughest stage of the Tour de France. It was an all-day event, and for as much as we trained, Adam was more of a novice. I was more of a racer. I had raced in college a little bit. And on the penultimate climb, unfortunately, Adam, with a valiant effort, had to eventually pull out. So it left me to do the longest climb at the end by myself. Now, the next day, like I mentioned, was the stage of the Tour de France. So they actually closed down the mountain, and I was left on my own without the film crew, without food or water for the last hour and a half, which was not enjoyable, although there was a French family at the side which provided me some Gruyere cheese sandwich, which was not great because I'm lactose intolerant, but it helped me get to the top of the climb and live out my dream at the toughest stage of the Tour de France. And it just so happened that that year, this Discovery Channel won the Tour de France. A gentleman by the name of Alberto Contador won the Tour de France. So that was the actual event of living the dream through riding the toughest stage of the tour. And it just so happened that the next day I had to start my career with Cisco. That was 20 years ago. And I flew from this party that we had on the Champs-Élysées to New York, and then moved myself and at the time my girlfriend, now my wife, all the way down to Raleigh the same day. And I showed up and I met the cohort that I'd be working with at Cisco and told them the story of last night I was with Lance Armstrong and the Tour de France crew, and I was partying on the Champs-Élysées, and I lost credibility immediately. But I built it back over time because they saw my show, they recognized that I wasn't lying about it, but an incredible experience. You can't see it here, obviously, because I don't have the slides, but that bike that I won during the competition, I actually lost it in an apartment fire a year later. It was sentimental value. Obviously, I wanted to pass it to my kids who are here tonight and then their kids, and unfortunately, I lost it in a fire. But the point of telling you that story is it was a script. For me to get that dream lived out, it was a script, and I was able to do it again when another competition came around in 2011, and I won that competition again. And guess what? I won another bike, and I got to spend a week in the Tour de France as a team member in the car, effectively sitting next to the coach during a stage of the Tour de France, multiple stages of the Tour de France. And I leave you with that because the idea I mentioned at the start of this was all about a variation of your dream. I think if I look back at my opportunity that I had and the experience that I had, it truly was like living my dream, and it's carried me in multiple ways throughout my life, whether it's motivating other people or taking opportunities and always having an open heart and an open mind towards opportunities. It's helped me throughout my whole life. So what I want to leave you with tonight is take that idea, go after that dream, keep an open mind, find a way to live it. Even if it's a variation, it's worth it. Thanks for your time tonight. Have fun. Take care.